Welcome to Main Street Podcast, an opportunity to talk to Idaho's elected leaders about the issues that matter to you. All right, welcome. We are here with Senator Kevin Cook, part of the Main Street Caucus, been serving in the Idaho Senate for a couple terms now, has a few sessions under his belt, which the turnover, you're now one of the senior guys, you're top dog.
They gave me a chairman position this last session, so I am the chairman over the Commerce and Human Resource. So that was a shocker to me, and I have never served on that committee. So to never serve on it and then go to chairman has been a real huge learning curve. Had to learn a lot.
So do you expect me to call you chairman throughout this whole thing?
No.
Okay, good. I know you as Kevin, but I'll slip in as senator every now and then.
Kevin is fine.
Just so I know my place. Kevin, thanks so much for being on. Appreciate it. This is an opportunity for you to chat about some of the things you've been working on, but there's a lot of people out there, new people to the community, people that maybe are just getting tuned into the political scene. They don't know you. So do you want to take a minute and just kind of introduce yourself?
Sure.
Who is Kevin Cook?
All right. Well, I grew up in Spanish Fork, Utah, in a little farming community, Spanish Fork, for those that like to make fun of that, but in a farming community called Lake Shore, and our farm went right out into Utah Lake.
Okay.
So we'd haul hay, and when it was nice and hot, we would just wade out in the Utah Lake and would fish and make rafts and swim, and in the winter, we would ice skate. Graduated from public high school, went to Weber State University. Graduated in software engineering, and I'm a computer geek, and I really enjoy it. I love what I do. I then met my lovely wife, Sherry, at Weber State University. Met her, and then we came up to Idaho Falls to visit my brother on a 4th of July. It was during a parade, and it snowed. And I said, nobody in their right mind would ever live in Idaho Falls. It snows on the 4th of July. And then 3 years later, we came back and fell in love with it. And we moved here and we raised all our kids. We moved here in 99 and we raised all of our kids through the public schools here. And our last one just graduated from college yesterday. And so it's been pretty exciting time in the Cook household.
Fantastic. Yeah. And those that know Sherry, I mean, you may be chairman, but she's the real boss, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, we love Sherry.
She is wonderful. Yeah.
5 grandkids?
Yes. We got 5 grandkids, and they're all in Idaho Falls.
Yeah. Well, and those of us who were here on the 4th of July this year, we thought it was going to snow during the fireworks. Everyone was bundled up.
It was cold.
It was a cold 4th of July. So you have some experience working in Eastern Idaho. You spent some time at the lab. Is that right?
Yes. So I currently work at the Idaho National Laboratory as a software engineer. Originally came here to interview for a job in 99. Didn't get the job, but went off on my own and did my own consulting business. And have done that off and on, hired on at INL for a few years, quit, went back to my own thing, back at INL and so forth, back and forth. But currently I work at the Idaho National Laboratory, and they are wonderful to work with me as I'm serving as a senator.
A lot of people, sometimes they'll look and they'll see their elected officials, and the first question is, how does one become a senator, right? And as I've talked to some of your colleagues, some, they spent a long time on school boards, or others, were serving in different routes. Your path, I think, is really impactful of kind of how you got started. And particularly, why don't you walk us through where you saw some vulnerabilities in our public school system as you were spending time there?
Okay. Yeah. For the last, I think probably 8 or 9 years. Well, I had a teacher at school, at church. And as she came up to me and said, Kevin, I asked her how school was going and how teacher, because I mean, I enjoy education. I think that's the important part. My kids were in the school, and I asked her how she was doing. She says, oh, you know what I really need? I really need somebody to just come in and just volunteer just one day a week or maybe one day a month. And I says, I'll do that. And she laughed, says, all right. I said, no, I would love to do that. So for 8 years, on my day off at INL, I go in and read with a bunch of 8th graders. And it has been awesome experience. Now, she gives me the worst of the worst, or those that are struggling, not all the time, but the ones that are struggling. And so I get to see how our education system is doing, but I also get to see how awesome our teachers are.
Yeah.
And we got some incredible teachers that love these kids, not only love, but they stretch them, they push them to get them to be better. But I saw some things that we could improve in education as over the last 8 years as I've read with those kids, and just a lot of fun. If you're looking for something rewarding, go volunteer at one of our schools. They need you, and they'll put you to work.
And presumably that played a role in when you decided there was a Senate seat you should run for?
Well, yeah, I was definitely interested in education, but um, I had 13 acres at the time, and we flood irrigated, and the ditch. I shared the ditch with the Senator Dean Warber, and we're still friends, even though we shared water ditches.
Uh-oh.
But we'd stand out on the ditch bank and we'd talk about politics. And I was always interested in politics, but it comes to a point where you keep complaining, so you either need to shut up or go do something about
There
it.
you go.
And Dane mentioned in passing that he was retiring, and I said, I want to do that. So I went home, talked to the wife and kids, and says, "What do you think?" And he says, "Oh, it won't affect us. You do whatever you want." I said, "Oh, no, no, it will affect you." Yeah, and so we had a kind of a family council, and we decided that, yeah, let's go for it. So it's been there's been days I wonder why did I do this, but for the most part, it's been a great experience.
What are some of the things you've been most proud of that you've been able to accomplish as a senator?
Oh, I think one of the big things that I've helped since coming there is my career in software engineering. Um, you got all these agencies that come. So I serve on JFAC, which is the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee. So I see all the budgets from all the agencies, and I sit in there. And these agencies will come and say, "Well, I need this software, or I need this software package, and we're going to write it, or we're going to go purchase it, and for millions and millions of dollars." And I said, "Well, do you have a project plan?" "Well, no." I says, "Well, let's get a plan. Let's make a plan before we just go out and appropriate money." So I've really worked hard to bring some of the expertise that I have learned in college and in the workforce of how to do a project in software, and to cut the cost where we can, or cut the risk, to help our agencies, and make sure we're not buying the same thing for one agency and another agency instead of going after an enterprise license, which saves the state millions of dollars.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wild concept because when we picture like an effective senator, you're thinking he's got to be a constitutional scholar and an attorney and all that. And here we have a computer nerd, self-described computer geek, who's been able to come in and save taxpayer dollars by understanding the issue and asking the right questions.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just that, asking the right questions. You don't have to have any special training. We all come from different walks of life, and we all have our expertise. And we just need to learn to open our mouths and shine in the expertise that we bring. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an engineer, so I don't help there, but the software I do help.
Yeah. This last session was a bit of a wrestle at times. What are some of the things that came out of this last session that maybe frustrated you? And then some of the things that you were proud to see that the conservative-led Idaho Senate did?
I think one of the things that was really frustrating was my mobile device bill.
This is an important thing that most people probably aren't aware of. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So this is, I named it the Parental Rights uh, uh, Protection Act.
Mhm.
In other words, it was to give parents some rights. That pendulum is swung so far the other way that sometimes we forgot about the parents. That they're the ones that are raising the children, not the government, and not the businesses. It's the children. And so this one was basically, there's really a simple thing to this bill. It was, if your mobile device was activated within the state of Idaho, then turn on the parental software, filtering software that filters out pornography, adult content. And that was basically it. Now, got a lot of pushback. First of all, I had a bunch of providers, Verizon, T-Mobile, some of those come in with all their hands up in the air. "You can't do this, Senator." And I says, "Well, wait a minute. Let me explain this. This doesn't affect you at all. Has nothing to do with the provider. Provider doesn't do anything. Has nothing to do with the retailer. So if you go into Verizon and buy your phone or was it Frog or Toad or whatever it is, you go in there and buy that, they could care less. They're just selling you a phone. They don't have anything to set up for you, nothing different. What we were asking was the manufacturer, the one that creates the software, the operating system. We're saying when they activate the phone, and if it's activated within the state of Idaho, then by default, turn on that filtering software and then ask. So we didn't specify how to do that. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to do their own thing, but here's what way I thought it should ask. I activated my phone and it comes up and says, "Oh, the parental filtering device has been activated. Do you want to have it continue to activate it? Yes or no?" No. Then it turns off and there's no filtering.
Easy enough.
Or I can say, "Yes, I want it activated," and it will provide a passcode for me.
Okay.
And so I've got a passcode that I can use that passcode to turn it off when I want to, but I can then take that phone and give that to Junior. I say, here's your phone, go do what you want with it, but the filtering software's on there. So it's just a way to say, parents, we're going to help you out. It's a simple bill, it's a good bill, except we didn't get it passed. And there's a little bit of opposition about a very loud group that went off.
What was the concerns of the bill that's just supposed to help keep kids safe?
Well, they said, well, first of all, you're forcing these manufacturers to, like iPhone, you're forcing iPhone to put on software on their phone. I says, no, it's already there. Whether you have a Droid or an iPhone, the parental software is already there.
Right.
The other thing is, well, you're going to force all these other manufacturers that are creating filtering software, they're going to go by the way because they can't compete. I says, no, the software is already there.
Right. So the concern from this group is that it's just too much government.
That's the only thing I can think of. But you look at their points. I sat down with them point by point by point. In fact, I even brought up each of those points on the floor.
Yeah.
In the debate and argued them. Another one that says you're going to force them to index the whole internet so that they know which is bad, which is good. I says, no,
It already exists.
it's already out.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're just not doing it.
But what the question may come, like, is there a need for this? Have parents reached out to you, or are you hearing from your constituents? Look, we got to do something about this epidemic. The new drug, as it's often called.
Absolutely. There is. This really sounds weird, but there is medical proof that a child with a developing mind, developing brain that gets involved with pornography at a young age, it affects the way the brain develops. And that's a fact. You can go out and Google that if you want. It's also a fact that pornography is a gateway to greater crimes against children and women. And, there's a great show that's being shown at the movie theaters right now about sex trafficking. Well, this plays a part of that. It's not all of it, but it does certainly play a part of it. So, yes, this is a important bill. It needs to happen. Go ask your kids. Go ask your kids tonight. Where do you get your pornography? And they like, what are you talking about? I says, well, ask them. Did you get it at the library, or did you get it on your phone? And, well, they get it on their phone. Pornography is pornography. We've had growing up, pornography had to be behind the clerk's station, the cash register.
Right.
Had to be in a sealed cellophane package, and it had to have a cardboard paper in front of the cover page, and it had to be up out of the reach of kids who couldn't do it. And all we're doing is say, let's do the same thing. But we're not even forcing it. We're just saying, give parents such opportunity. And if you still want it, we're not taking those rights away from you. If you want your kid to see pornography, great. Or if you want to see pornography, great. We're just saying by default, turn it on.
So I know a lot of people come away from the movie Operation Freedom. Is that what they're calling it? Yeah, they come away from that film and they say, I got to do something. I want to help these kids. I want to help stop human trafficking. What can I do? Who do they need to call to help get your bill back in play?
Your representatives, your senators,
Yeah.
get them all. You call them all, tell them, and but don't be mean about it. Because I've got lots of mean texts and stuff about it. Just say, hey, this is a concern. I believe pornography doesn't have a place for children.
Mhm.
And in fact, the state of Idaho in our Idaho code states that it's harmful for children. And so we're just trying to live up to what it is. But call your representative, call your senator, call your legislators, call your call the mayor, call any of the associations around here and say, hey, would you get on board with Senator Cook's mobile device bill? We need firemen, we need policemen, we need the mayor, we need engineering, we need doctors, all of them. Get on those associations and ask them to help out.
Fantastic. That's a heavy, real topic that needs to be addressed. Let's lighten it up a little bit and talk dinosaurs.
Dinosaur.
Dinosaurs. So we've heard a lot about this dinosaur thing, and I think you played an active role in it, but a lot of people might not be aware of what's going on there. Why don't you walk us through the process
Well,
of our new dinosaur?
first of all, you got to see my dinosaur socks. I don't know. Can you show that? You got to see the dinosaur socks.
Very on brand,
Yeah.
Senator. Very on brand.
But anyway, so what happened, it's been probably a year ago. We had Mr. Walton from White Pine Elementary School. We had Representative Horman and myself. We got a big old package that had probably about 50 letters, handwritten letters from each of the kid. And they were good handwritten, very best handwriting they had. And they focused on this subject. They says, Idaho does not have a dinosaur, state dinosaur.
State dinosaur. Okay.
And we need one. And we believe it should be the Rictodromeus dinosaur. And this is why. And they spelled out the reasons why they believed it. And it was in their own language. So it wasn't something that Mr. Walton put up on the board and said, copy this. It was there that did it. So we got all those letters, and then we read through those. And the next thing we got a phone call from Mr. Walton, says, we'd like you to come to the school. So Representative Horman and myself shows up to the school, and they show up at the front door. And these kids have lined the hallways and are cheering. I mean, just screaming. And they walk us down to their classroom. We get in their classroom. They have dinosaur punch, dinosaur eggs, dinosaur salad. I mean, everything that just incredible. They had I'm going to say Dr. K because I can't say his last.
That's okay.
Dr. K was there from ISU, and he had a replica of the Erectodromeus dinosaur there. And they escorted us up to the front of the class, and the kids talked to us about it. They told us about the dinosaur, and then we had actually had, in preparation of this, we actually had the bill written up. And so it hadn't been passed yet. Nobody had seen it. It was still an RS. We had it written up in this 3-foot by 6-foot thing, and we put it on the board, and we read through it. And I have never been lobbied like a bunch of fourth graders in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, these are incredible. But then we got that, and I was real excited about it. And Representative Horman wasn't quite as excited about it. And I couldn't figure that out until the session started. And they were talking about property taxes and all these important things. I want to run a bill for a dinosaur.
Right.
And then I understand why Representative Horman wasn't too excited. So I was like, okay, I think we can just put it under the carpet and forget about it. Until it was halfway through the session, one of the teachers showed up at my office and said, Senator Cook, I'm so-and-so. I was in the classroom when you and Representative Horman came and talked about the dinosaur. Said, where's the bill at?
Busted.
So we ran the bill. We got kids all across Idaho, though. It just went like wildfire.
Yeah.
We had kids from Boise and Coeur d'Alene, Caldwell, and here that testified of it. And we now have a state dinosaur. And
Say the name one more time.
it's a Rictodromeus. It's about the size of a golden lamp.
Oh.
And here's some things why they said, the kids taught us this, why it's a good dinosaur. It is unique to Idaho. Only a very, very small corner of Montana is it found, but it's unique to Idaho. It burrows on the ground. So on the debate for this bill, one of the senators says, do you think a burrow on the ground to eat potatoes? And he says, I think there's a marketing point, and we should have the commissioner of potatoes, Idaho potatoes, with the Cerrictodromus and do that. It's a family dinosaur, so families are huge in Idaho. It's a huge priority, and it's a family dinosaur. But there's a lot of attributes that make it unique to Idaho and why we should do it. So
It's interesting because you're wrestling with these complicated JFAC bills, and you've got your chairmanship, and you got all these things going on, and it may not have been the most important issue at the time, but it was important to those fourth graders, right?
it was, and you know, you get out on the floor and you get in some debates, and sometimes they get a little bit heated up. And we had that particular week, we had done that. We had some caucus meetings where, you know, things were brought up and so there was some lines being drawn. And to bring up that dinosaur, everybody had just fun fourth grade level questions. I mean, if and we had people watching it, schools watching it. They had zoomed in to watch this thing. Uh, but it just brought everybody back together and reminded us that we can still have fun and enjoy it and enjoy what we do and do something for our fourth graders. Who, we always talk about how do we get our youth engaged in the political process. And here we got a bunch of fourth graders across the state engaged with the political process.
Yeah.
It was an awesome experience. It really was.
Well, it's a case study in democracy, right? The idea that those fourth graders didn't have to write fat campaign donations to get you to come say hi to them. It's how government's supposed to work, right?
We understood the governor came down,
Uh-huh.
signed the bill in front of the fourth graders. They had they had their whole school show up. So this was at Yukon. He had since switched to Yukon. So we had the kindergarten first all the way through fifth or sixth graders in this thing. And governor shows up and signs it, talks to the kids, and did a wonderful job. It was good.
Fantastic. So we're talking cell phones. We're talking dinosaurs. As you get leading up to this next session, dinosaur one's done. We're going to fight for the cell phone bill again. What else is on your to-do list?
Oh, well, one of the budgets that I did carry is the Medicaid budget,
Okay.
and it is $4.5 billion.
Oh, it's a big one.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Now, the very biggest percent of that, huge percent of that, is federal. It's not the state, but still, how do we cost contain that? Well, there was a House concurrence resolution passed that said we're going to have a task force. And so I was a member of that task force committee, and we've been meeting a couple of times a month. And that bill or concurrence was to study managed care organization. And managed care basically says you've got the Department of Health and Welfare here, and then you've got all your providers. And you got Medicaid patients going to the providers. The providers bill the department, and the department pays them. Because Medicaid is a state, basically social insurance. So they wanted to look at an MCO, a managed care organization, that would fit right smack in the middle of it. So you got a middleman, a third man. And the thing was to look and see, can we save some money by having the MCO in there? And so we've had a lot of people come and talk. In fact, I had 2 meetings here in Idaho Falls where we have providers come in. The first night, I think there was 50. The next night, I think there were 25. We talked for about 2.5 hours nonstop.
Wow.
And they were just full of information. And then plus the committee meeting at in Boise, we were there for an all-day meeting from 10 to, I think, 3:30. We had people coming in and presenting why we should do MCO, why we shouldn't do MCO. And so I don't think MCO is the golden egg that's going to save Medicaid. I really believe it's the little bites we're going to take around the edges. And these providers, these doctors they're the experts. A lot of times we think we get voted in, and I'm a legislator, and by George, I am now the expert. I can fix everything, and that's just not the case. And so it was important to get with these providers. In fact, I have another meeting next week in Pocatello with a bunch of physicians to go over this same kind of stuff and gather information. But they're the ones that are giving us information about MCOs. We also have a VCO, which is a valued care organization. It took 10 years to set it up. We've only been running it for 1 year. So we don't have a lot of data on it yet.
Sure.
But the data that I'm hearing that's coming back from the providers, the VCOs, are saying we're going to save you millions of dollars. So
Wow.
I, I don't I don't know if it's really good to say, oh, bag VCO and go to MCO. Let's give it some while. But my thought is give it some while.
Yeah.
Let's see what's going to do. Right now, it's looking really good.
So that data, those budgets, not the sexiest item, not going to pull any headlines, but it's important because it's expensive, and it's how we can save some taxpayer dollars if we do it the right way.
Yeah.
So you're doing the hard work of attending those multiple hour meetings, digging into this stuff so that somebody can know, all right, what's the West policy moving forward?
Yeah. Going back to Senator Dean Mortimer when he told me you really should go do this. He says, it's just 3 months. I thought, oh, okay. I think financially I can swing it 3 months. I'll lose some money, but I can do it for 3 months. Well, I've been in Boise 2-3 times every month,
Yeah.
and then meetings at home. And so it is very busy trying to figure out Medicaid. And Medicaid is humongous. It's like an onion. You pull one level back, and you've got 60 more to go through. So it's big. There's lots of little pieces I think we can do to help fix Medicaid around the edges. There's a lot of people say, well, just get rid of Medicaid. Well, that's not our option.
Right.
Medicaid is demanded, is required. It's a federal required social insurance plan. So we might not like it, and we might want to get rid of it, but it can't be done at our level. It's got to be done in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. And what we can control is let's see how fiscally conservative we can
Yeah.
make it. Sure. Well, whether somebody votes for you or votes against you, one thing they can't deny is you do your homework and you do listen to the experts and constituents. There are some of your constituents who think you're far too conservative and some that think you're far too liberal, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's your message out there to those who don't agree with your stance on certain issues?
You know what? I don't think there's anybody that's going to. I'll bet there's a lot of differences between us. There's nobody that's going to be 100%. But come and talk to me.
Yeah.
Tell me why you're against it. Just don't yell and scream and tell everybody how terrible I am, and maybe I am terrible, but come and communicate. I am open. I do not have all the answers, and that's why I've met with these doctors on this Medicaid stuff. I really, really do try to reach out to people to figure out what is best. What's the best answer? How do we move forward? And so if you disagree with me, then come and talk to me, educate me. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah. No, I think your openness has been a reason why you've been elected and reelected, and we're hoping that trend continues as you dig into some of these issues. Final words as we're closing up. As you think of your 5 grandkids now, right?
Yes. Yep.
What are the issues that you're saying, okay, as I think about my grandkids, this is where Idaho needs to be so that they can have what I had?
You need to have education. We got to have the best education out there. And there's problems with education across the nation. And we have some problems here. But be very, very careful to use a very broad brush and paint all educators that way. So get your information. Don't just take one person's word for it. I don't. I many times I'm guilty of asking questions, and then I got to go see for my own eyes. And I did that with the library bill. I wanted to see for my own eyes what books were in the library. I want to hear from providers what's happening with Medicaid. I want to hear from dentists. And so go get your information. Idaho is an incredible state. It is. We've got lots and lots of good things going for us, and we just need to keep them going. And it's going to take all of us to do that. It's not just one person. It's not just your legislators. And, they had an Idaho Idaho State prayer meeting. It was January, I think. And Dean Mortimer invited me to it. I wouldn't have went to it. But Dean says, oh, come on and go. They had a guy there that used to play for, he was an executive with Chick-fil-A, and he was a professional football player. Guy was humongous. But he stood up and he just left me with a message. He says, how do we change America? Or how do we change Idaho? Or how do we change Bonneville County? And he says, it starts within 3 feet of you. Change 3 feet within you first. Make the changes that you have control over, and then start working out from there. And so I think that's what we ought to do.
What a great thought. So from Frozen on the 4th of July to computer geek to digging in these Medicaid budgets, chairman and senator, thank you so much for joining us. You keep making that change. We hope you come back on because we got a lot more issues to talk about. We appreciate your time today.
Love to. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
A
Senator.
lot of fun.
Appreciate it.